So very good morning to everyone. Uh, and today I'm going to give a demo about blockchain technology, a part of science and tech information technology. Here I split the science and technology into four divisions. So one will be a part of information technology, and the second one is purely related to defense, and third one is nuclear, and the final one is biotechnology. So when you analyze a previous year question paper, the trend from 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, the amount of questions asked related to science and tech will be more or less aligned towards current affairs. So if any technology, any invention is newly in news or recently in medias, that will be asked as a question in your prelims as well as in mains. So in prelims, it will be very specific to the content. So it is not, it doesn't mandatory that you need to be a subject specialist to know those concepts. Say for example, when LIGO was installed, there was a question about gravitational waves. And there is no need that you need to be an astronomer or you need to study all those things related to space science. So only limited thing, just like what is enough to clear your prelims. We are not going to train you for PhD scholarship or something else. So we are just going to concentrate on clearing this exam. So subject specialization is not required when it comes to science and tech. Only the concepts you need to know. But there are certain areas where we need to concentrate more on implementation and applications of the skills which we have learned in terms of new innovations. Say, for example, blockchain technology, quantum computers. So these are the vast areas which will help you to get through your mains as well as interview. So today we will see about blockchain technology. And if you have any doubt, let me make it very clear. If the doubt is imaginary and something is not it's beyond your imagination, you can put that in Q&A. We can discuss about that at the end of the session. If it is mandatory that you need to be cleared immediately, you can unmute your mics and you can ask me at any time. Okay, it's clear. If the instructions are clear, please type yes in your chat box. Thank you. So can you guys see the screen? Once again, I'm facing the technical issues. Okay, can you see the screen now? Thank you. Okay, so we'll see about blockchain technology. So before, uh, so letting you know about what is blockchain technology, you must know what it is all about. This technology is also termed as Internet 2.0. So what is wrong with the Internet and why we are going for Internet 2.0? That's the thing we are going to discuss today. And the most important thing is that, so when the Internet was so introduced 20 years before, so roughly 2 decades, so the World Wide Web became public to common people. So it made it publicly available to the entire globe. So it was believed that this innovation would fundamentally change the world as we knew it. So that was a statement given by Tim Berners-Lee. Of course, he's the one who has founded that. So he says it is going to change the world fundamentally as we all know it. Of course, it is true. We are all evident and we witness that even today we are having classes virtually because of the presence of internet. But whether it satisfied all its objectives, which is stated by during the time it was made open to public. So not many. It is only two objectives. The two objectives should be very simple and easy to understand. So those things are number one, trust, and number two is disintermediates. So number one is trust. So once again. So number one is trust, and we'll see what happened to the trust. So trust it was built based on that loyalty or something which we will rely on. Say for example, in the beginning, the mode of communication between the peoples will be purely dependent on two things: is like either by written mail or by a communication by a human. So apart from that, we have ancient world techniques of sending pigeon. Even now, Pakistan is sending kind of pigeons into Jammu Kashmir areas. So to overcome this, they said internet will provide you trust. There won't be any middleman. In the sense, there won't be any postman to deliver your letter. So that if it is between one person to another, then there is no possibility of leakages in between. So the communication from the writer to the receiver will be completely secure. If it is in the presence of third party like postman or in the presence of people who is trying to carry this message and communicate with the third party or the person who is going to receive that message, and there will be a branch of data. They are going to copy that letter or they are going to act as a spy by communicating with to their enemies. So it was quoted as a trust. It means they eliminate the third party and they say like it is going to be between the sender and the receiver. So I'm going to send a mail, so it will be directly mailed to a particular people rather than it is going to be a through a third party like a postman or someone else. So but recently the development in internet is not as like as it was uh, thought by the innovators. So let me show you some figures that will clearly explain you whether we can trust this internet or not. So this guy, hope you are aware of this, his name is Edward. A long story short, and he is an American living in Russia. And this is the guy who is began WikiLeaks. So these two guys, sometimes people call them anti-national, sometimes they are called as whistleblowers. And these guys revealed what internet is capable of. There's nothing called privacy and nothing called trust in internet. So these two personalities revealed the globe. Even the top most leaders in the world are spied by the agencies which they belong to, either it is US or wherever it is. So a private organization even can have all these stuff with the help of internet. So trust, internet is not reliable one. So one of the pillar it relied on is broken. And number two is disintermediates. So when could you please mute those mic? So whoever comes in, please mute the mic. So next is disintermediates, meaning that there is no one in between the buyer and seller. So there is no one going to be a centralized authority to direct you, or there nothing one, no one in between you and your ideas to communicate or channelize something which will be open only to a particular protected group. They said it is everything is open for everyone. So there is no place for intermediates. But what happened actually? So look, the picture shows like Flipkart, Amazon, and we have n number of online websites. So like some are Indian brands, some are US. Uh, then we have Paytm. We have a number of brands, and this guys Flipkart, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. So rather than eliminating these intermediates, this internet's evolved into a created a chain size intermediates. So take an example. Look at this example, like very simple. So if you want to buy a mask, say like N95 from a Swadeshi product, and there is no other option available for you apart from getting into an e-commerce. So that will be ruled by two companies, either it will be by Flipkart or Amazon in India, and we have other like Myntra and Snapdeal. So one after another, that will be tied with other third parties. So even if you want to buy a N95 mask made of Swadeshi product, if you put that in Amazon or Google, Amazon and Flipkart, that will show you a seller from Gujarat. If you are from Tamil Nadu, you will be connected with the people in Gujarat through a medium called Amazon or Flipkart. So the same N95 mask or the same mask which is manufactured and produced within a 10 kilometer of range, that particular seller will not get a buyer just because he is not a part of Amazon or Flipkart. So that results in the giant size intermediaries again, which internet failed. So the both pillars which internet relied on, number one, trust, and number two is disintermediates, they failed epically. And these are the problems which you are facing in a recent today or day-to-day activities. So apart from that, you have a number of positive sides of internet too. So when you have some kind of problem, existing problems, and there is always a solution for it. All the existing problems comes with a solution. So one such solution is a blockchain technology. We call that as a internet revolution 2.0. So number one, the basic fundamentals of a blockchain. So, so I will tell you how it is different from internet, and I will take you what is blockchain later. Okay. So the first thing here they discussed about the most important feature is trust. So trust is the most important thing just because that it purely depends on even a smallest transaction what we are doing today is facilitated by a trust system and intermediaries. Say for an example, if you want to buy a product, either you are going to pay through a Paytm or a GPay or something, any other third-party apps or mobile banking, where you need to trust on the system. And there are other cases where we need to trust on a banks, regulatory systems, and government agencies at some point of time. There are some worst cases like Yes Bank or Punjab banks that will be tell you why you should not trust those guys. So apart from that, blockchain comes with a fundamental concept of trust. So whenever if you come across the word called trust, you always assume that it is being loyal to something, or it is something that only a noble soul can be relied on. But apart from that, there is a great economical value behind this a single word called trust. So number one is trust system. So let me share you on another page. Can you see the screen? Someone please unmute and tell me that whether you can see the page called trust system and economic structure.
Yes, sir, it's totally visible. Thank you.
Okay. So when it comes to CERT, as I said, it is purely dependent on, we are purely depending on the system of trust, as well as there are intermediates which we are relying on them. So why we need to go for a trust system? So why we always trust something called banks or intermediates? The reason behind this will be that it comes with a variety of forms. So variety of forms in the sense when you are planning to apply for a bank loan, or if you are planning to apply for buying a product from a particular agency, then they will be verifying you with n number of things. Even if you make a small transaction of 10 rupees or 15 rupees, that has to go through a number of process. OTP has to be received, and the same will be acknowledged by the bank as well as from the party which received the money. So these kinds of forms will be a part of a trust system. Apart from that, the nature of transaction being executed. So here we have a mobile application which says 2 lakh can be transacted without any hazards. Apart from that, we have other checks and balances to verify the trust within the system. And when it exceeds 2 lakhs, or when it exceeds something amount which we are planning for a greater investments like 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs, sometimes 1 crore rupee, then we will have a escrow account where accountant will be there, buyer will be there, and we have seller. So the buyer will be sending his fund to the escrow account. From here, the fund will be channelized to the seller. The seller will produce a product and transfer this asset to the buyer. So rather than buyer giving his money directly to the seller and getting back his asset as a value for his product, he is approaching a intermediate. From there, his account or funds will be project financing will be transferred to the seller. So imagine if you are planning to buy an apartment, and if you are taking a house loan, the loans will be sanctioned based on the criteria. Those criteria are not many, very few, that they will check the loyalty of the seller who is selling those apartment, whether they have a reliable, say like XYZ XYZ builders, and the particular bank like HDFC or something, any banks, they will check the credibility of this XYZ builder. When they came to know that they are credible and they can hand over the project on time, then they will assume they will allocate particular amount as a project finance. So that will be transferred to the seller. From seller to the buyer, asset will be transferred. So this is all the things which we are following in the current type of trust system and intermediates. So when this kind of project is implemented with the help of intermediates, that will purely depend on the economic structure. So today we have evolved a system based on trust and intermediaries. So, and this will result in a development of intermediates. Either it can be a bank, or it can be a government agencies, or it can be regulatory authority. Say like regulatory authority, either you can NBCI, National Payment Commission of India, where all our transaction will be passed through this gateway. So these things, this regulatories, either bank or government regulatory or government agencies, they necessitated need to create a centralized authority. So here comes the problem. First problem is centralized. So everything is centralized. It means all the banking transactions in India is controlled by RBI. Then we call this as a centralized network. So all this to channelize and functions of all these regulatories will be centralized to have a proper execution and enforcement of system in place. Either it can be a policy or law or any initiatives taken by the government that will be properly channelized with the help of a centralized organization. Then what is the problem with this centralized one? So why this centralization plays an important role? That is again the question. If centralization is the one which can be helped to perform this organization in a better way, and what is the problem in it? So the problem is number one. So when the system become complex, say for example, there is a small bank and it has an district head overhead, and it has a state head, and it has a zonal head, like southern part of India or something. Then it will be have a main capital head. Either it will be in Mumbai or somewhere it will be in Delhi. So probably most of the banks will have their capital in Mumbai. So what happens is like even a small changes will happen in this kind of district level or state level or state level or zone level. All things has to be communicated to the main branch, either it is in Mumbai or Delhi. So this is how the banking structure works. This is how the centralized networks works. Say for example, a funny example for a centralized one. So if you are crossing a signal, so red signal, and you are catched by a traffic man, and what we do actually is like we'll pay the fine and we'll move on. What if for every bypass of this law, you need to communicate with DGP? So it's like for every person violating the law, that particular SI has to communicate with DGP saying like, sir, this person, this vehicle number has violated the rules. And if it goes on like daily 10 lakh or 15 lakh, people will be violating the signal. So this will create a complex network. So it will take the system very complex that people cannot function with this centralized system effectively. So what does it mean? If a system is complex, then it will result in inefficiency. So system is so please mute your mics. Please do mute your mics. So system is complex. So excuse me, let me mute that particular post. Okay. So the system is complex, then will result in inefficiency. So if the system is inefficient, then why we need to worry about that? So what's going to be wrong? If one particular organization is not performing well, it is not going to affect the entire economy. That's not the case. If inefficiency is high, economic growth will go down. So that is vice versa. So the efficiency is high, the economic growth will be high. So inefficiency grows, the economic growth will be low. So this will be the most important thing we are going to discuss today, how we are going to improve this efficiency in administration and in particular of governance. When it's related to civil service, we need to concentrate more on a governance. So problem in present system is like we are very clear that one is centralized. Centralized system will result in complex structure. When the system is complex, it will result in inefficiency. When there is inefficiency, that will result in economic slowdown and economic growth will get reduced. So to overcome that, every year we have a system called analysis and assessment will be made on all around the globe. So it will called as ease of doing business. So this ease of doing business will be done by World Bank annually. So it will come up with certain indicators. So there are many indicators. So we cannot name all these indicators, but very few indicators where India ranked low. I just mentioned here is like enforcing contracts, where India ranked very low, and property registration, India ranked very low, and starting a business is a hustle in India, and that is a great headache in India earlier, and we have rectified it, but still we are in a low ranking. And trading across borders, let's deal with exports. So these are the problems which we are facing in the present system. So when it comes to World Bank ease of doing business, we are doing quite a good. It's like we came forward 79 positions and we are at 63rd rank by the report, which says like released in 2020 says India is at 63rd rank, but still we have this kind of indicators where we are performing very low. So enforcing contract, registration, business, and exports. So how we are going to overcome that? So if you want to overcome that, you need to look into the problem here. Problem of complexity has to be reduced. Problem of inefficiency has to be reduced. Only then economic growth will be forward. Then the ease of doing business and all other criteria indicators will be pushed forward and we will be ranked more. When we have a good rank in ease of doing business, investment from overseas will pour into India. Sorry for my map. So investment will be poured into India if we have a good rank in ease of doing business. So how we are going to do that? So before that, as I said, first thing is corruption, and we have seen complexity, and we have seen all these problems. When the system is inefficient and complex, and there is another problem in the present world is corruption. If the system is simple and it is efficient, there is no role for corruption in the system. If the system is complex and inefficiency is more, that leads to corruptions. That middleman will comes, brokers will approach for easy renewal of projects or getting permit for the particular industries. Everything will be channelized by a backdoor. So that kind of activities will be prevalent in or any kind of organization which has complex structure. So when it comes to corruption, we have an index called Corruption Perception Index. So that is given by Transparency International. So these things you can expect in your prelims. So UPSC prelims, they will ask you like Transparency International releases which report, or Corruption Perception Index is released by which report, or even they can ask you questions related to ease of doing is released by which of the following: World Bank, WEF, IMF, or WTO. So they asked the same question in 2015 and 17. So this kind of questions will be repetitive. So it is always advised that you need to concentrate on this kind of publications or results by World Bank or Transparency International or any other NGOs. So apart from that, last year there was a questions related to indicators which is involved in ease of doing business. So that's the reason I put these 4 indicators here. So these indicators will be given as option and they wanted to find out which one of the following will come under the criteria of ease of doing business. So this was asked in 2018. So you can expect the same kind of similar questions which ask for indicators in a different report. So to put the story in very short, we have a system where it is completely complex and it is filled with corruption. So how we are going to overcome that? So, and we have a prime minister. He has a principle of a motto in governance, so which says less government and more governance. So this is the mantra of the government to function, to reduce the complexities, to make it efficient and eliminate corruption. So to make the government less and governance more, that will be done with the help of blockchain technology. So that will be very simple, that we can easily go with the blockchain technology where the corruption will be eliminated, complexity will be completely reduced, and efficiency will be increased in over a period of time. So let me come back to this smart contract later. So now I'll take you to the PPT again. Can you see the PPT file or slides? Thank you. So next is decentralized. So now we have seen what is the importance of trust. So trust will bring you investment. Trust will help you to grow economically forward, and trust will make you as a superpower. So next is decentralized. So earlier we said it results in centralized network, meaning that if a transaction has to takes place between A and B, so if you want to transfer 100 rupees, that has to go through a bank system. So he will transfer 100 rupees. So that will be transferred to him after taking some transaction cost. That will be like 99 point something. But it's not all the case that if there is a transaction between A to B, it is not going to reduce the money. But if it is going from A to B via bank, see all the B's will be consider all the B's with the circle as bank. To B, from B to bank to C, from C to bank and through D, from D to bank and through E. So if the A transfers 100 rupees to E, if it goes via person B, C, D, and E, there's a possibility that he will receive 75 rupees. So 25 rupees will be taken as a transaction fees or any other fees as a service charge or providing some kind of services for using their applications or using for you to receiving SMS for maintaining their ATM cards, and they will charge some kind of amount. So this is a normal case which we are facing today. So when it comes to blockchain technology, we are not going to have this much of hassle because we are not going to transfer money from A to B in the intermediate of bank. Rather, we are going to send money from A to B directly. So this we call it as peer-to-peer. So if you are going to transfer money, we call this as a digital money, or you can call it as cryptocurrency. And there are a number of names. Bitcoin is one of a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin alone is not a definition of cryptocurrency. It's an example. It's one kind of example. And you have Litecoin, and you have n number of coins in cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is just one an example. Just because the investment rate and the price of Bitcoin is huge. In the year 2016, the price of Bitcoin in India was 30,000 rupees. One Bitcoin will cost around 30,000 rupees. And today, I'm not sure about the today's price. Somewhere will be around 7 lakh rupee. Scale of development 4 years. If you invested 30,000 rupees in Bitcoin in 2016, now will be like something. It's beyond your imagination. Return is around 7 lakh rupee for 30,000. Even if you have started it earlier by investing in 12,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees, your income will be very high. So we'll come to that later. Which we have a separate session for cryptography. So we'll discuss about the cryptocurrency later. So coming back to the decentralized network. So now the transaction is going to be A to B from my mobile phone to the receiver mobile phone, or from my laptop to the receiver laptop directly without connecting to any centralized system or server. So now it eliminates intermediates. So it is a system where completely decentralized. So it is going to be a money transaction between person to person that will be completely secured. No third party is involved, and the transaction will be completely transparent. If a person A sends amount to person B, person B knows how much amount he has received exactly. So this is going to be the decentralized network, and a clear picture of decentralized network will be like this. So I have a picture to show you. So like this, you can see a nodes. So this assume this point or each node as a B, and this is how it is decentralized. So earlier we'll have a system that will be like A will be communicating to the server, then it will be moved to a client, then we have different nodes. We will be one among them. We'll be sitting here as A, sitting here B, and sitting here as C. So all the things will be controlled by server or some third party which act as intermediates. So overcome this, we have blockchain. At the same time, once the network is decentralized, and the next questions will arise in the mind is like whether it is safe to maintain a transaction or to make use of this network, whether is there any possibility of hacking. So that we call it as immutable. Immutable in the sense it is not able to mute into the system. So like completely free from hacking. How is it possible for a system to be completely free from hacking? We don't have any server in place to hack. So it is going to be a peer-to-peer. So the transactions will be completely secured. So these are the basic fundamentals of blockchain. So whenever they comes with the blockchain, so still now we didn't get into the definitions. I'm giving the fundamentals of blockchain. So one is trust, you know how it works, and number two is decentralized. Number three is immutable. So now I'm taking to the definition of blockchain. They say it is an distributed, verifiable, auditable, then consents, which means, so what is a blockchain then? It is a database which is distributed, adjustably transparent, highly secure, and immutable. So now I'll tell you how these records are maintained. So imagine one of the reason for corruption is like we have a March rush. So every month they need to come up with the auditing accounts where all the things has to be tallied. So only then non-lapsable fund, no issues. If it's lapsable fund, they need to make use of the money, or else they need to return the money to the treasury. So that's a problem with the non-lapsable fund. So what people will do in generally do in offices, like they will maintain auditing books. Say like if it is a month February or 2000. Okay, take it as we'll change that as September. September 2019, or we can put it as 2020, September 2020. So in expense sheet, they are writing as petrol 200 rupees, and for food 1000 rupees, and for stationery items they wrote 100 rupees. So this kind of expenditure sheets will be available in a monthly basis. So this for September month 2020. So they need to submit all the documents on March end, so that financial year will start in next year. So before March 2020, they need to tally the auditing sheets. So here you look at this, they spend for petrol 200, 4,000, and stationery. This is a real picture. So now they find an excess amount of GC. I'm just giving as an example and a random number. So just consider this as an example alone. So I'm giving a random number is like I have excess of 10,000 rupees, which I don't want to return to the treasury. So what I am asking is like in the month of March, I am coming to know that I have 10,000 rupees in excess. So what I am asking my accountant is like make use of this 10,000. Is like transfer the 10,000 to my surrender the 10,000 to me. Then change this September month balance sheets plus additional 10,000 rupees. It's very simple. We can add 10 here. So what was earlier 200 become 2,000 now. What was earlier 100 become 1,000 now. What was 1 will be turned into 5,000. So in this sense, you can manipulate any data which was earlierly well established within the organization. It means that whatever expenditure you are doing in the month of September 2020 can be manipulated at the end of March 2021. So it is given as 21. It can be easily manipulated. So to overcome that, we need to have a system where once the data is entered into the system, it cannot be manipulated. If you try to manipulate this, the entire people in the organization will come to know about the change which is specified by the particular authority. So only then this kind of activities will be prevented. That is possible with the help of a blockchain. They call it as a ledger, an electronic ledger. Again, it is a one of the such kind. Say for example, if you have a Google sheet, an update Google Sheet, you can make any people as an editor. You can create a sheet and make some people to edit. Say like I am making a person B as an X is the author and he is making a B, C and D as an editor. He is giving the right to edit these people. So this will act as a ledger. So now if anyone edits this particular page, it will show to everyone in the chain like author A, C, that B editors his profile at 11:30 at this location and he has changed this into X into Y. So this is a change of data he has changed. This will be available to all the people D, C, A and even though he's an author, he can able to access this file. So what if I distribute this ledger sheet to hundreds of computers? So this is a computer 1, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in this sense, you will have 100 computers will be connected to the system. So now it will be very practical that even if computer 2 makes some changes, all the system connected with this will be getting their updates, or if they know that some person has changed and that the data ID is a computer number 2. So the changes will be evident. So people cannot change it in the March end, so that the excess amount will be, rather than getting into a corrupted money to the public particular person, the money will be transferred to the government treasury. So this is how the blockchain will works, and this is how the blockchain will function. So each thing will be assumed as a block. So it will be connected with the network. So it doesn't mandatory that it need to be within 100 meters or 50 meters. It can be around the globe. Anyone can be sit in any corner of the globe and they can operate on the same database, which is available with everyone. Even people who is making any change will be known to all the people operating around the globe. That is the specialty about blockchain technology. Okay. Now we are moving to the next. So it is a distributed one. Database will be distributed and database will be transparent. It will be highly secure and will be immutable. So how it will be? How it is highly secure? So when we have a system which will be connected by 100 people or 100 networks, 100 computers is connected together, or 100 mobile phones is connected together, there is no place for a third party to enroll in. Say for example, in server, there is a possibility that we have always an error called 404 that you can see in any kind of web page. Whenever you try to enter into a web page, that will show you like 404 error found. That means there is a crack in the wall which we can easily enter into it and we can hack on the entire website. So those things will not be possible in the blockchain. The main reason is it is works on three categories. One is public, another one is private, another one is consortium. It's combination of both public, private, and a common people. So where we can see like we can take an example of an WhatsApp group. See, just an example, WhatsApp group is not a blockchain entity. WhatsApp group example, you can take it like you have a group, probably you will have a college group or you will have a school group. Is it possible for any people apart from your school or apart from your college to be a part of this member? Completely, it is not possible unless and until the admin invited them to join. So it will be a completely secured one. It is a closed group. In the same way, here all the 100 people will act as an admin. So they will have given with a certain procedures and codes in the form of algorithm. So once the algorithm is satisfied, only then that people will be allowed inside the network. So there is no possibility for hacking. If anyone try to hack the system, say like they want to manipulate the data in the computer 6, if they try to pull this computer 6, all the 99 computers will be alerted, making that someone is trying to change the data, and possibly that is not possible for them to do it. Just for example, for trying to get access to a particular block in a blockchain, it will take at least 13 trillion times of trial to crack the code. It is not an easy task unless and until if you have a quantum computers, this process will be done very easily. With supercomputer, it is not possible to do that, as at least like it will take more than 1 or 2 months to do that. So probably you will change all the data for every second and hours. So someone is trying to manipulate the data, who is working on it for 24 days or more than that, they cannot access this data. So it is completely secure. So this way, blockchain is trustable, blockchain is decentralized, so that the system will make the system simple, which means improved efficiency, which in turn will improve the economical activity and economical growth. So now, other interesting thing is, now you want to know what is it, how would this functions, and I said many things about block and blockchain. Now I'll tell you how this functions and how it works. Okay. So now, um, we will look into that applications of blockchain, so that it will be easy for me to explain the blockchain concept very easily. See, land records in India. So I will tell you what is happening, how blockchain will help you to evolve this problem. See, assume that this is a particular area called Ananagar, and we have blocks or plots. So we have n number of plots in Ananagar. So each plot will have a registration document. Okay. So I'm going to give an example of this X or X plot alone. So now the plot X was assigned by the government to the common people in the year, just an example, in the year 1960. The owner of the plot is A. He is the owner who acquired the land from the government. So he is selling the plot. He is decided to sell the plot in the year 1970. So what he is doing is, he is approaching some third party, and they will go to the government registration office where his data will be stored. Now the data will be converted into ownership of B, and now he holds the ownership from 1970. Okay, the ownership of X from A 1970 is transferred via registration form in a registration office. Then it is moved to owner B. Now the same thing will happen. So owner B will want to sell this, then he will go to registration office. He will do the same kind of activities. Now it will be transferred in the name of owner C, and in the year, if you want to sell it by 1980 or something, he will sell it. So this case will be continue for whoever is owning the land. But in India, you need to know that there is an n number of cases in courts for double documentation. So double document of a particular land, that is the greatest threat in India when it comes to land registration format. What people will do is, like, from the owner to B, they forge a document here. It's not in the registration office. The particular person will have access to this documents. They will change the owner as a B here itself. From A, the owner will be changed. Rather than going through C and D, he will have a separate documents where he will go for registration, and he will say the same plot text to the person called D. When the D try to construct some kind of infrastructure in the plot X, where C will come and fight for it, saying that that is a part of his land. So it is plot X. Earlier it was in the hands of A. It was transferred legally to B, from legally to C, and from B it was illegally transferred to D. So this is the greatest problem we are facing in land records, just because these are not connected from the mother document to the this is a parent document to the one who is buying those things. So anything can be manipulated in between. So it results in a double documentation that results in if you go for a court case, that will take for some years or 15 or 20 years to resolve it out. So the infrastructure development or the investment will be folded. So that is again a drag in economy. How this blockchain will solve this issue? So blockchain the name suggest, so I'll put it as BC. Name suggest it will comes as a block. So once again, good news are piling in. Okay, we have blockchain technology. Then, okay, let me read out this. Our student Jagdishwaran has cleared civil service examination and he has secured 670th rank in his first attempt. Okay, so now coming back to the blockchain, it comes with the block. So everything will be considered as a block. So each blocks will be in a 3 categories. So number block, the data will be entered in. It will be given as a 2 hash. One is pre-hash and post hash, or the hash for the nested tag. So it means if you enter a data, that will be converted into 2 things. One is post hash and pre hash. When it is the first block, we call this as a zenith. So if you want to enter a data or to create a block 2, that will be connected with the previous hash. Previous hash here refers to the hash of the one it is generated in the block 1. So it will be connected with the previous hash, and this will create a new hash code that will act as a previous for this data, block 3. So whenever a block is created, 2 things will be created. One is previous hogs, which means the data which is connected with the previous block, and the new data, the new hash code for new data to be connected, which is going to act as a previous hash for the new one. So in the sense, all the codes will be connected in a blockchain. Means, I will give you an example. I am entering hi as a block. What happens is hi is converted as, if it is a zenith block, some asterisk 1, 3, 4. And the same high will be converted into a post hash like 4, 5, asterisk FG. So this is a block. Now I'm going to add a separate block. So now the second block will be added. I'm saying hello. So hello will be data will be entered. It will be connected with the previous hack. Here previous hack will be 4, 5, XFG. So this is a hack hashtag of this earlier one. So the chain will be connected. So in the same way, we will connect n number of blocks. So now I will want you. So please mute your mics. Someone is accessing in your mobile phone. Please close that. So now I just wanted to remind you the previous example which I given for a land document. So whereas that document will be forced from A to B, B to C, and C to D, just because in between B will be branching the document illegally, and that results in a double documentation. Now the same scenario, A. The hash comes with a slash code and a previous slash, a new slash will be created. So A data will be created, it will be connected with the code, and B data will be created, that will be connected with the code. C data will be created, that will be connected to the code. Or I just want you to remind the tally sheet, September month 2020. And this is November month 2020. So this goes like till March 2021. So now if they want to change any data, they cannot do it, just because if they want to enter any changes, they need to change the entire data. How could that be possible? It's very simple. So the moment he entered hi, all the, either it is hi or any letter, say like congrats. So all will have a different codes. So the moment if you want to change hi into capital letter high, the entire code will change. So if you want to forge a document saying like in February, if you have September, if you have food expenditure of 200, and if you want to manipulate the data into 2000, then the hash code will change. Pre-hash will go change and the post-hash will change. The moment post-hash changes, then will be changed in B. C will be changed. So it is impossible for you to change the documents once it is entered into it. If you want to change this, then you can add it as a new block saying changes in September 2020. Then you can make some changes. So by this way, this is completely immutable, completely secure, completely transparent. No one can alter the data. Once it is completely 100% secure and transparency is maintained, there is a hassle-free transaction takes place, and there will be a transfer of land from one party to another very easily, and no one can in between or in the act as a mediator to manipulate the data, and there is no possibility for double documentations. Everything will be sorted out with the help of blockchain technology. It is a one case which we can use it as an example, or we can use this application in the field of land document. At the same time, documentation of land or implementation of procedures will take some time. Say, you should not ask like, sir, if this technology is good, why the government is not implementing and completely changing all this into a blockchain technology when it comes to land document related stuffs. So again, it is we have a rule in place, so rule and laws in place. Then we have Indian Stamp Act 1889, and we have persons to present document for registration. So in many ask the question governance, or if you ask the questions related to sort out the issues in land record, you can quote this blockchain as an example, and you can say the challenges is with the law in place which prevent the person. This is like if you are doing some kind of transaction in blockchain technology, then comes a concept called smart contract. So smart contract is nothing but you are doing some kind of work with the help of blockchain, where it will be set with an algorithm is like a line of codes or laws in place will be inbuilt as an algorithm. Whoever satisfy that will be given as a given a contract, not like the one who is favors the people. Either it is a nepotism or cronism. Those kinds of things will be completely eliminated with the help of blockchain technology with a smart contract as a tool to do it. But here again, when you are doing a government contract from an industry with the government, that has to be go through the process in law, either with a stamp act or registration act that demands a person to be present in person. So those are the things we need to look it on. So this kind of technological changes will take some time. So this blockchain technology is still in a nascent stage, still in a stage of development in India. So over a period of time, say like another 2 to 3 years, people will work on it. They will bring a magnificent change in the overall system of the governance. So now we are using blockchain technology in National Information Center, NIC. So government is using that. Apart from that, government has come up with the concept of draft policy with NITI books, presenting a paper related to blockchain technology and the possibilities of accessing this application to the various fields like drug industry. So drug industries again is one of the most important thing where corruptions and eliminations will be easily prevented. Say for example, um, if you take eliminations and the measures where corruption takes place in the process of leakages, that can be easily eliminated with the help of blockchain. There are two areas where the leakages will be very high. One will be on the food industry, procurement from farmers. Another will be on the drug industry, so pharmaceutical industries. So here from farmer that will be taken to warehouse, where here the data will be forged and people will say like weeds are rotten or rhododendrons has affected the weed. whether rat or something has eaten, or rat has destroyed, or bacterial infection has taken place. All this data will be manipulated by the people who is working in the warehouse, and this will be sold in black markets. So people, as far as a structure, organization structure, we will have a data saying that this product is procured from the farmer, it's stored in a warehouse, it's destroyed because of bacterial infection, or it is because of rotting, or because of any kind of infections or something related to the maintenance of particular crops. So easily that can be eliminated if you have a blockchain technology, meaning that from the producer, it will be directly linked to the seller. Say for example, the person who is producing crops in your districts will be very high. Say for example, a district will have connected to a minimum of 10 to 12 villages. I'm saying like a very minimum, but directly connected to the headquarters will be uh, 10 to 15 villages nearby areas. So we'll have agriculture area. At the same times, every district will have a district hospital, and you'll have doctors working on that. So every people who is living in the districts are aware of this doctor, and they will have contact details about these doctors, and they know where to consult these doctors apart from reaching to the government hospitals, whether he has a private clinic. Even people are aware of the timing when the doctor will be available in his private clinic. But it is not the case in terms of farmers. You are not aware of the farmers in your in your locality of 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers. Even you are not aware of where he will come and sell his produce or anything. Only thing is like we will go to market. Sometimes that market will be filled with intermediaries. So this is where the area where leakages will take place, and the third party will play a role. They will procure from farmer for 10 rupees 1 kg, and they will sell it in the market for 60 kg, 60 rupees per kg. So 50 rupees will be taken by the intermediate. So these kind of things will be eliminated with the help of blockchain. So this is one of the areas where we can use this blockchain technology effectively. So apart from this, there is a different perspective of blockchain. So that is, we call it as cryptocurrency. So that we are not going to deal it today. We call it as cryptocurrency. That session probably will have that, and when you are enrolled in, we will have that session in a regular batch. So where we'll discuss about why Bitcoin is so costly. So what is Bitcoin mining? What does the Supreme Court order on whether Bitcoin, whether it is legal or illegal? Why centralized banks like RBI or federal banks are worried about Bitcoin? Is it possible to produce a Bitcoin? In the sense, how is it possible? So those things will be discussed later. So apart from that, the takeaway will be like this technology can be used in n number of ways. Either it is for MSME, or say for example, producer producing N95 mask in your area will be connected directly with the buyer. This is like a centralized structure within your district administration where people and buyers are connected. When this guy enters the data like he has manufactured N95 mask, then the people will came to know aware of that from through their mobile phones or with the help of laptop, so that they can easily approach him directly. So that is going to be a buyer and seller meet within the district administration. So that can be easily done. It can be done in an organization like Chinmaya's Academy. It can be done in a college. It can be done in a state level, government level. It can be done in national level too. So like investment will be much higher in the initial stage, but the profit we are gaining from the investment will be in multiple returns. So there is like we can invest on these things, that return will be very high. At the same time, economic benefit will be unimaginable, where the trust immutability will give you, take you to the places where you are not reached. That's like ease of doing business. We got around 69th rank, sorry, 63rd rank. So probably if we have a system in place where it can eliminate third parties and eliminate leakages, prevent corruption, then we can easily go within a top 10 ranks. When you are in top 10 rank, investment will flow into your country. So once the investments flows, economic development will boom. So thereby results in a development of this nation. So this is all about blockchain technology. So for a takeaway for prelims, as I do, prelims questions will come directly from a very simple questions like they will ask a definition of blockchain. At times they will ask definitions related to blockchain in a statement sentence. Say like blockchain will prevent immutability. It's known for trust. So those words will be asked in a statement question. Apart from that, the things which you have seen today in the terms of land records, we discussed about two acts, and we discussed about smart contract, and we discussed about ease of doing business and some indicators. Those things will be asked as a prelims questions. Corruption index, perception index that is given by Transparency International. These are the areas where you need to concentrate on your prelims. For mains, the overall structure, overall flow of the session will be can be used for your mains examination. So for every field, this technology will be apted. So apart from that, in the science and technology session, we will discuss about other areas. So what we have seen today as a blockchain technology will come under the part of information technology. And apart from that, we have defense technology, and we have biotechnology, and nuclear technology, and space. Through these areas, we will cover all the syllabus mandatory for the exam, purely in a exam perspective. If the concept demands an explanation, I will do that. As like we have done for blockchain, we have another session for quantum computers too. So those things are always in news that you can expect a question in your prelims. So take it as a challenge for prelims 2020. You will get a question. So probably you will be appearing for 2021, but you can go through you can see the questions when the exam is over in 2020. Directly or indirectly, question will be related to blockchain. Either they will ask you about the blockchain mechanisms, or they will ask you about the governance of blockchain, or they will ask you about cryptocurrencies. Okay. And my name is Ranjit, Faculty of Science and Tech and Environment Technology. And I have an experience of 6 years, and I worked as a coordinator in Vellore Institute of Technology, purely for civil service. So, and we produced a very good results. So most probably in the top 50. So it's not an advice. One suggestion I can give you is like anyone can aspire this exam, but people who will follow the instructions regularly will get through this exam very soon. It's like follow the instruction consistently will get through. And all you need to do from your end is you need to be trainable. That's it. So whether you are from IIT or MIT or any college, doesn't bother. So you need to be trainable. Only then you can get through this exam. And thanks for the time.